citizen launched a weaponized drone and killed a United States citizen, could that private citizen be criminally prosecuted?
He would.
Was President Barack Obama criminally prosecuted when he killed United States citizens using drones without notice and without due process?
He was not. Although, as far as due process is concerned, I believe the comment of my...
If any president walks onto the sidewalk and just shoots a citizen, is that president liable to be prosecuted?
He is.
How about this? If a president steals funds from his campaign, does that president face criminal liability?
He does.
How about this? If a president sexually assaults, let's say, an intern in the Oval Office, is the president...
Grab a drink, get comfortable, and listen closely because Ted Cruz just put a very important question on the table. If presidents before Donald Trump took controversial actions without facing criminal prosecution, why is Trump being treated so differently? If you want straight political commentary without the noise, hit like, subscribe to the channel, and turn on notifications. Because what Cruz said next deserves a serious look. Capitol Spotlight gives you all important happenings in the House. Kindly subscribe, like, and share.
Today is that the concept of presidential immunity is somehow unprecedented, is somehow remarkable. That claim is utterly ahistorical and disconnected from the entire constitutional history of the Republic. General Mukasey, before 2023, how many times has the President of the United States been indicted?
None.
Before 2023, how many times has a former President of the United States been indicted?
None.
In the last 2 years, how many times has President Donald J. Trump been indicted?
4 times, I believe.
Now, many presidents of both parties have engaged in controversial actions, and yet none of them have been indicted. Let me ask you, General Mukasey, if a private citizen were to erect an internment camp and to forcibly kidnap American citizens, to single them out because of race, and to imprison them based on their race, would that private citizen be subject to criminal prosecution?
Would.
When President Franklin Delano Roosevelt did the exact same thing and erected Japanese internment camps, was FDR prosecuted?
He was not.
Let me ask you, similarly, if a private citizen were, say, to detonate a nuclear weapon over a city and kill over 140,000 people, and then if that private citizen a few days later detonated another nuclear bomb over another city and killed 75,000 people, could that private citizen be criminally prosecuted?
He would.
Was President Harry Truman prosecuted for detonating nuclear weapons over Hiroshima and Nagasaki?
He was not.
All right, how about this? If a private citizen launched a weaponized drone and killed a United States citizen, could that private citizen be criminally prosecuted?
He would.
Was President Barack Obama criminally prosecuted when he killed United States citizens using drones without notice and without due process?
He was not. Although, as far as due process is concerned, I believe the comment of my successor to that question was that Anwar al-Awlaki got, quote, all the process that was necessary.
Well, although I suspect he might disagree with that assessment were he able to present his case.
Right.
All right. Let's contrast that with the rules that govern other federal officials. You were a judge for 19 years. As a federal judge, did you have immunity from your official acts?
For my official act, yes.
Do federal prosecutors have immunity from their official acts?
They do.
Now, the distinction between official acts and personal acts is not a terribly shocking distinction. Under the decision of Trump versus United States, if any president walks onto the sidewalk and just shoots a citizen, is that president liable to be prosecuted?
He is.
How about this? If a president steals funds from his campaign, does that president face criminal liability?
He does.
How about this? If a president sexually assaults, let's say, an intern in the Oval Office, is the president subject to criminal prosecution for that?
He could be.
So that distinction, again, is not a shocking distinction. The Founding Fathers vested the executive power in a single president of the United States. What we have seen in the last 2 years is we have seen Democrats deliberately weaponizing the Department of Justice and our legal system to target their political opposition. It is not an accident that every indictment against President Trump was brought by a Democrat and was brought after he announced his campaign for President of the United States. Understand, the target of those indictments was not ultimately President Trump, it was the voters. It was prosecutors who were terrified that the voters would choose to re-elect President Trump. One of the great things about the United States is we're not a banana republic. Since 2000, the nation of Pakistan has had 6 former prime ministers prosecuted and convicted. Brazil has had 3 former presidents arrested and imprisoned. Last year, Nicaraguan President Daniel Ortega arrested, charged, and imprisoned 40 political opponents. General Mukasey, you were Attorney General of the United States. Is it the proper role of the Department of Justice to prosecute and target the political opponents of whoever happens to be President of the United States?
It is most assuredly not.
Thank you.
Ted Cruz's argument in this hearing was simple but powerful. Presidential immunity is not some brand new concept invented to protect Donald Trump. Cruz argued that throughout American history, presidents have taken controversial official actions without being criminally prosecuted for those decisions. And he brought up some of the biggest examples in American history. Cruz pointed to Franklin D. Roosevelt and the internment of Japanese Americans during World War II. He argued that if a private citizen had forcibly imprisoned Americans based on race, that person could face criminal prosecution. Yet Roosevelt was never criminally prosecuted for the policy. Then Cruz raised an even more controversial example, President Harry Truman and the atomic bombings of Hiroshima and Nagasaki. Cruz's point was not that these historical decisions should never be debated. His point was that presidents have historically been treated differently when exercising their official powers. Then came Barack Obama. Cruz asked whether Obama was criminally prosecuted over U.S. citizens killed through drone operations. The answer was no. Cruz used that example to challenge the idea that presidential immunity suddenly became relevant only because Donald Trump returned to the political stage. And this is where the debate gets interesting. The former Attorney General acknowledged that there is an important distinction between official presidential actions and personal criminal conduct. In other words, immunity is not supposed to mean that a president can do absolutely anything and automatically escape prosecution. Cruz made that distinction himself. He asked whether a president who simply walked onto a sidewalk and shot someone could be prosecuted. The answer was yes. What about stealing campaign money? Again, potentially criminal. What about sexual assault? Again, presidential office would not magically turn a personal crime into a lawful act. That distinction matters. From my perspective as a right-leaning commentator, the real issue is whether the criminal justice system is being applied consistently, regardless of who occupies the White House. If a president commits a personal crime, investigate it. If there is evidence, prosecute it according to the law. But if prosecutors start using criminal charges as a political weapon against their opponents, that creates a dangerous precedent no matter which party is doing it. Cruz argued that the prosecutions against Trump were politically motivated and ultimately aimed at influencing voters. That's a serious accusation, and Americans should examine the evidence rather than simply accepting either side's political talking points. The United States cannot afford a system where every change in presidential power is followed by attempts to criminally punish the previous administration simply because political enemies now control the machinery of government. At the same time, presidential immunity should never be interpreted as unlimited personal immunity. The law has to apply when a president acts outside legitimate presidential duties. That is the balance this hearing is really about. Cruz ended with a broader warning, pointing to countries where political opponents have been prosecuted or imprisoned and arguing that America must not become a country where the justice system is routinely used against political opponents. And I think that's something Americans on both sides should take seriously. You don't have to support Donald Trump to believe that political prosecutions deserve intense scrutiny. And you don't have to oppose Democrats to believe that presidents should remain accountable when they commit genuine personal crimes. The standard should be the same: evidence, due process, and equal application of the law. Because once Americans lose confidence that justice is independent from politics, everybody loses. If you agree that the law should be applied equally regardless of political party, let me know in the comments. And if you want more political hearing breakdowns and commentary, make sure you like this video, subscribe, and stay with the channel.